The summons arrived at dawn. Elara stood before the council table with mud still on her boots from the morning patrol. 6 pairs of eyes watched her, and none of them looked kind. Elder Matthias spoke first. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "The Alpha King is dying. The pack bond is fracturing. We have 48 hours before it collapses entirely." Her heart kicked against her ribs. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything," Matthias said. "There's a blood oath. Your grandmother signed it 20 years ago, when Caelan's father pulled our border families back from the brink of a war. A life debt. A promise of alliance." Elara's mouth went dry. "My grandmother's been dead for 5 years. The debt passes down the female line. You're the last of her bloodline." He slid a yellowed document across the table. "You'll marry the Alpha King tomorrow at dawn. The mating bond is the only thing strong enough to anchor him, and us." The room tilted. She wanted to laugh, to scream, to run. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Does he know?" "He knows. And he agrees to this?" Matthias hesitated. Just a flicker, but she caught it. "He has no choice. Neither do you." She left the council hall with her hands shaking and her wolf snarling in her chest. By the time the sun set, she was standing outside the Alpha King's chambers, with an escort she didn't need and a future she didn't want. The guard knocked once, then stepped aside. "He's expecting you." Elara pushed the door open. The room was warm, lit by a low fire and a scattering of candles. It smelled like cedar and something sharper. Something wrong. Sickness. Caelan stood by the window, his back to her. Broad shoulders, dark hair that brushed his collar, and a stillness that didn't feel like calm. It felt like control. "Close the door," he said. She did. He didn't turn. Not yet. "They told you?" "Enough." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "They said you're dying, that I'm supposed to fix it. I'm not asking you to fix anything. Then why am I here?" Finally, he turned. She'd seen him before. Everyone had. He was the Alpha King. Fierce, untouchable. The wolf who'd united 3 fractured packs and held the northern territories against incursions for a decade. But the man in front of her now looked like he'd been hollowed out from the inside. His skin was too pale. His eyes, still gold, still burning, but dimmed. Like a fire, struggling against the wind. He was beautiful. He was dying. And he was looking at her like she was the last person he wanted to see. "You're here because the council believes in old magic and blood oaths," Caelan said quietly. "Because they're desperate. Because I'm out of time." "Do you believe it?" His jaw tightened. "I believe the bond might buy us a few more months, maybe a year. I believe you didn't ask for this, and I'm sorry you're caught in it." She took a step closer. Her wolf pushed forward, curious and wary. "You don't look sorry. You look angry." "I am." "At me?" "At all of it." He moved away from the window, but his steps were careful. Measured, like every movement cost him. "You're 18. You should be choosing your own path, your own mate, not shackled to a dying king because your grandmother made a promise you never agreed to." Elara crossed her arms. "And yet, here we are. Here we are." Silence stretched between them, heavy and strange. She should have been terrified. She should have been furious. But standing in the warmth of his room, with the firelight flickering across his face, all she felt was pull, a hum beneath her skin. Her wolf recognized him, wanted him. That scared her more than anything the council had said. "What's killing you?" she asked. His expression shuddered. "That's not your concern. I'm marrying you tomorrow. I think it's exactly my concern." Caelan's eyes flashed. Just for a second, the gold flaring bright. His wolf, still there, still fighting. "It's a curse," he said finally. "One I earned, one I deserve." "I don't believe that. You don't know me." "No," she agreed. "But I'm about to spend the rest of your life tied to you, so maybe you should start talking." He almost smiled. It was fleeting, bitter, but real. "You're braver than I expected." "You expected a victim." "I expected someone the council could bully into compliance." Elara lifted her chin. They did bully me. I'm still here. That doesn't make me weak. Caelan studied her for a long moment, and something shifted in his gaze. Respect, maybe. Or surprise. No, he said quietly. It doesn't. He moved to the table near the fire and poured 2 glasses of water from a clay pitcher. His hands were steady, but she saw the effort it took. He offered her one. She took it. I won't lie to you, Caelan said. The bond might stabilize me. It might give the pack enough structure to hold together after I'm gone. But it won't save me. Don't go into this thinking you're walking into a love story. Elara sipped the water. It was cold and clean, and it gave her a moment to breathe. I wasn't, she said, but I wasn't expecting you to be this honest either. I won't trap you with false hope. And I won't let you pretend this is all noble sacrifice. She set the glass down. You're scared. I can see it. His expression darkened. Careful. Why? You're already dying. What are you gonna do? Growl at me? Caelan moved faster than she expected. One moment he was across the room. The next he was right in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat rolling off him, see the faint tremble in his shoulders he was trying to hide. His voice dropped, rough and low. I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of what happens to you when the bond snaps into place and you feel every ounce of pain I've been carrying for the last 3 years. I'm scared you'll hate me for it, and I'm scared that even then, I won't be able to let you go. Her breath caught. The bond hummed louder now, electric and insistent. Then don't, she whispered. Caelan's eyes widened, just slightly. For a heartbeat, she thought he might reach for her. Instead, he stepped back. Slow, deliberate. You should go, he said. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. Elara wanted to argue, to push, to demand more answers. But his walls were back up, and she could see the exhaustion etched into every line of his body. So she nodded. I'll see you at dawn. Elara. She paused at the door, glancing back. Caelan stood by the fire again, his shoulders tight, his gaze fixed on the flames. Thank you, he said quietly, for not running. She almost told him it wasn't too late, that she still could. But the truth was, she didn't want to. Not anymore. See you tomorrow, Caelan. She left before he could say anything else. And as the door closed behind her, she pressed her hand to her chest and felt the bond flicker. Faint. Fragile. But undeniably there. Elara woke to the sound of rain. She lay still for a moment, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling of her new room in the royal wing. The bed was too soft. The walls were too quiet. And somewhere down the hall, Caelan was alone. She dressed quickly, pulling on simple clothes that felt wrong against skin that still hummed with the echo of last night's conversation. The bond was quiet now, but present, like a second heartbeat just beneath her own. When she stepped into the corridor, a servant appeared almost instantly. Luna? The woman bowed. Breakfast is ready in the... Where is he? The servant hesitated. The Alpha King is resting. He asked not to be disturbed. I'm his mate. I'm disturbing him. She didn't wait for permission. Caelan's chambers were at the end of the hall, behind double doors carved with wolves in mid-hunt. She pushed through without knocking. He was sitting by the window, shirtless, a basin of water and cloth beside him. His back was to her, and for a moment she couldn't move. Scars. They covered his chest, his shoulders, his ribs. Not the clean lines of battle wounds, but something darker, twisted. The skin looked burned in places, mottled and wrong, and she could see the faint black veins spreading from a jagged mark just over his heart. Caelan glanced back, his expression unreadable. I said I didn't want to be disturbed. You say a lot of things. She closed the door behind her. Doesn't mean I listen. He turned back to the window. Go eat breakfast, Elara. You'll need your strength for tonight. So will you. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. His jaw tightened. She crossed the room slowly, her eyes fixed on the scars. Up close they looked worse. The black veins pulsed faintly, like something alive was crawling beneath his skin. What happened? She asked quietly. I told you. A curse. That's not an answer. Caelan exhaled, a low, rough sound. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't say anything. Then his hand moved to the worst of the scars, the one over his heart, and his voice dropped. 3 years ago, my sister was supposed to negotiate a treaty with the Northern Pax. There was an ambush, a cursed blade meant for her throat. He paused. I got there first. Elara's chest tightened. You took the blade for her. She's the diplomat. The pack needs her. He said it like it was obvious, like his life mattered less. I thought I could handle it, thought my wolf could burn through the curse. But it didn't. It latched on, and it's been feeding ever since. On what? My wolf, my strength, everything that makes me this. He gestured vaguely at himself. The healers tried everything. Blood magic, binding rituals. Nothing worked. The curse is tied to my life force now. The only way to stop it is to sever the connection. By dying. Or by completing a mate bond strong enough to absorb the damage. Her breath caught. That's why you agreed to this, not just to stabilize the pack. You think the bond might save you. I think it might give me a few more months. His voice was flat. But it'll cost you. When the bond snaps into place tonight, you'll feel it. All of it. The pain, the exhaustion, the weight of holding a dying wolf together. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were raw. That's what you're signing up for, Elara. Not a love story. A slow collapse. She should have been angry, should have felt used. Instead, all she felt was a bone-deep ache for the man in front of her. Why didn't you tell the council? She asked. Why let them think this was just about tradition? Because if they knew the bond might kill you too, they'd never have agreed. He turned away again. And I needed to try, even if it's selfish. Elara stepped closer, close enough to see the tremble in his hands, the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. You're an idiot, she said softly. Caelan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. So I've been told. And you're not allowed to die before I decide whether I like you or not. This time he did smile. Small, fragile, but real. I'll do my best. She reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. When he didn't, she pressed her palm flat against the scarred skin over his heart. The bond flared, sharp and bright, and she felt the curse push back. Cold, hungry, wrong. But beneath it, she felt something else. His wolf. Weak, but still fighting. I'm not going anywhere, she said. Caelan's hand came up to cover hers. His grip was warm, steady despite the tremor she could feel beneath his skin. You don't know what you're promising. Neither do you. For a moment they just stood there. The rain drummed against the window. The bond hummed between them, fragile and new and impossibly stubborn. Then Caelan pulled away, his walls slamming back into place. The ceremony starts at dusk, he said. You should rest, eat, prepare. What about you? I'll be fine. Caelan. Go, Elara. His voice was rough. Final. Please, she wanted to argue. To push. To demand he let her stay. But the exhaustion in his eyes stopped her, so she nodded, stepped back, let her hand fall to her side. I'll see you tonight, she said quietly. Tonight, he echoed. She left before the ache in her chest could pull her back. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Servants dressed her in ceremonial robes. White silk, edged with silver, heavy and too formal for someone who'd spent most of her life in work clothes and mud. They braided her hair with moonflowers and painted symbols on her wrists that she didn't recognize. She felt like a stranger in her own skin. The council came to brief her, to explain the steps of the ceremony. to remind her what was at stake. She nodded through all of it, her mind elsewhere. On scars and black veins, and a man who'd taken a blade meant for someone else. On the way his voice had cracked when he said, "Please." When the sun finally began to set, she was escorted to the ceremonial grounds. The pack had gathered in a circle beneath the ancient oak, at the center of the territory, their eyes solemn and watchful. And there, standing at the heart of it all, was Caelan. He dressed in formal black, his hair tied back, his expression carved from stone. But when his eyes found hers across the clearing, something in his face softened, just for a heartbeat. Then the drums began. Elara stepped forward, her pulse racing, the bond thrumming louder with every step. The elder standing between them raised her hands, her voice carrying through the crowd. By blood and bone, by moon and earth, we witness the joining of two souls, Alpha and Luna, protector and heart. Caelan's gaze never left hers. The elder continued, speaking words Elara barely heard. Something about oaths and promises and the strength of the pack. Then Caelan was in front of her, his hand extended. She took it. The bond snapped into place like a thunderclap, and the world went white. Pain. That was the first thing Elara registered. Not her own, his. It flooded through her like fire and ice, scorching every nerve, wrapping around her ribs and squeezing until she couldn't breathe. The curse wasn't just killing him slowly. It was tearing him apart from the inside, over and over, every second of every day. She gasped, her knees buckling. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. Caelan's arms locked around her waist, holding her upright even though he was trembling just as badly. "Elara!" His voice was ragged. "Breathe," she tried. Tried to pull air into lungs that felt crushed. Tried to separate her own heartbeat from the fractured rhythm of his. The bond pulsed between them, raw and overwhelming. A living thing that refused to settle. Around them, the pack murmured. Worried. Uncertain. The elder stepped closer, her weathered face tight with concern. The bond is strong. Too strong. It will stabilize, but they need time. Caelan's grip on Elara tightened. "I've got her." "You can barely stand," the elder said quietly. "I've got her," he repeated, steel threading through the words. Elara forced her eyes open, forced herself to focus on his face. He was pale, sweat beading along his temple, but his jaw was set and his gaze locked on hers. "I'm okay," she whispered. "You're not. Neither are you." A flicker of something almost like humor crossed his face. "Fair point." The elder raised her hands, signaling for the crowd to step back. "The ceremony is complete. The Alpha and his Luna are bonded. Let them have peace." The pack dispersed slowly, their expressions a mix of relief and unease. Elara felt their eyes on her, felt the weight of their hope pressing down like a stone. Caelan shifted his hold, sliding one arm beneath her knees and lifting her against his chest. "I can walk," she protested weakly. "Humor me." He carried her back through the clearing, past the oak, past the rows of pack members who bowed their heads as he passed. His steps were steady despite the tremor running through his frame, and the bond hummed louder with every beat of his heart. When they reached the royal wing, he didn't stop at her door. He carried her straight into his chambers and set her gently on the edge of his bed. "You should have let me fall," she murmured. "Not a chance." He crouched in front of her, his hands resting lightly on her knees, his eyes searching hers. "How much of it did you feel?" "Everything," she wanted to say. All of it. The agony and the exhaustion, and the quiet, relentless grief of knowing his wolf was slipping away piece by piece. But she didn't say that. Not yet. "Enough," she whispered instead. His jaw tightened. "I didn't want you to know." Too late. He looked away, his shoulders curving inward like he was trying to make himself smaller. "You shouldn't have to carry this. Neither should you." "It's my burden." "Not anymore." His gaze snapped back to hers, sharp and raw. "Elara, you don't get to do this alone," she said, her voice firmer now. "That's not how this works. Not anymore." For a long moment, he didn't respond. Just stared at her, like he was trying to memorize every line of her face. Then he exhaled slowly and sank back on his heels. The bond will settle in a day or two. You won't feel it as strongly then. It'll just be background noise. Will it hurt less for you? No. The word was flat, final. Elara's chest tightened. There has to be a way to break it. The curse, I mean. Caelan's expression shuddered. There is. Her heart lurched. Then why? Because it requires a sacrifice I won't ask for. What kind of sacrifice? He rose to his feet, turning away from her. It doesn't matter. Caelan, drop it, Elara. No. He spun back toward her, his eyes blazing gold. Not fully shifted, but close. You've already given enough. You married a dying man to save a pack that's not even yours. You took on a bond you didn't choose. I won't ask you for more. Then tell me what it is, she said quietly, and let me decide. His hands curled into fists at his sides. The curse can only be broken by a mate's willing sacrifice. A piece of your wolf essence, willingly given. It would transfer through the bond and burn out the poison. Elara's breath caught. Would it kill me? No. He shook his head sharply. But it would weaken you, possibly for months. Your wolf would go dormant while it healed. You'd be vulnerable, defenseless, but alive. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. No, he said, his voice breaking. I won't let you do this. She stood, crossing the space between them in 3 steps. You don't get to make that choice for me. Elara, you took a blade for someone you love, she said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. Don't you dare tell me I can't do the same. His face twisted, something raw and desperate, flickering through his eyes. You don't love me. You barely know me. Maybe not yet, she whispered. But I could. The words hung in the air between them, fragile and dangerous. Caelan's breathing was uneven, his control visibly fraying. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. You'd give up your wolf for a man you've known for 2 days? I'd give it up for a chance, she said. For both of us. For a future that isn't just waiting for you to die. His eyes closed, his jaw clenching so hard she thought it might crack. I can't let you do this. It's not your choice. Elara. When? She interrupted. When does it have to happen? He opened his eyes, and the grief in them nearly broke her. The next full moon. 3 weeks. Then we have time. Time for what? To figure out if this bond is real, she said softly. Or just desperation. He stared at her, his walls crumbling inch by inch. And if it's real? Then you let me make my own choice. For a long, aching moment, he didn't move. Didn't speak. Then he reached out, his hand trembling as he cupped her cheek. You're going to destroy me. She leaned into his touch, her eyes never leaving his. Or save you. Same thing, he murmured. And for the first time since she'd met him, Caelan smiled. It was small, faint. But it was real. Elara felt the bond hum between them, a little less jagged, a little less raw. Stay, he said quietly. Tonight. Just stay. She didn't hesitate. Okay. He led her to the bed, pulling back the heavy blankets and gesturing for her to lie down. She did, and he settled beside her, keeping a careful distance even though the bond tugged at both of them to move closer. I won't ask you for this, he said into the darkness. Even if the curse kills me? I won't ask. I know, she whispered. But if you choose it, I won't stop you. Her throat tightened. I know that too. His hand found hers beneath the blankets, their fingers lacing together. And for the first time in days, Elara felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The alarm came 3 nights later, just past midnight. Elara woke to the sound of howls splitting the darkness, sharp and vicious and far too close. She bolted upright, her heart slamming against her ribs as the bond flared hot with Caelan's sudden surge of adrenaline. He was already out of bed, pulling on boots and reaching for the blade mounted above the dresser. "What's happening?" she asked, throwing off the blankets. "Border breach." His voice was clipped, controlled. "Stay here." "Like hell." He shot her a look, jaw tight. "Elara, I'm not hiding while the pack is under attack." For half a second, she thought he'd argue. Then another howl tore through the night, and he swore under his breath. "Fine, but you stay behind me." She didn't bother answering, just pulled on her own boots and followed him into the hall. The royal wing was chaos. Guards rushing toward the main doors, voices shouting orders, the sharp metallic scent of fear cutting through the air. Caelan moved through it all with brutal efficiency, his presence commanding even in his weakened state. But Elara could feel the tremor in the bond, the strain. He was already running on fumes. They reached the courtyard just as the first wave of attackers hit the gates. Elara's breath caught. There were at least 24 wolves, all larger than any she'd seen before, their eyes glowing amber in the torchlight. And at the front, directing them with cold precision, was a man she didn't recognize. Tall, broad-shouldered, a scar running from his temple to his jaw. "Ronan," Caelan growled, and the name was a curse, the exiled beta. Ronan's gaze swept the courtyard and landed on Caelan, his mouth curving into a cruel smile. "Still alive, Alpha? I'm almost impressed." Caelan stepped forward, his body coiled tight. "Leave, now, and I'll let you keep your throat." Bold words for a dying man. Ronan's smile widened. "I heard the rumors. That the great Caelan Ashford is cursed, fading, barely able to shift." "Try me." Ronan laughed, the sound cold and mocking. "I don't need to. Your pack will fall without a fight, and when it does, I'll take what's mine." "This was never yours." "It should have been." Ronan's voice turned sharp, bitter. "Before you exiled me for a crime I didn't commit." Caelan's eyes flashed gold. "You tried to kill my sister." "I tried to save this pack from your weakness." The air crackled with tension, the two alphas locked in a standoff that felt like the edge of a blade. Then Ronan's gaze shifted. Landed on Elara. His smile returned, slow and vicious. "So, the new queen. Tell me, little wolf, does he even have the strength left to protect you?" Elara's pulse spiked, but she didn't flinch. Didn't look away. "Why don't you find out?" she said quietly. Ronan's smile faltered, just for a second. Then he gave a sharp whistle, and his wolves surged forward. The courtyard erupted. Elara's instincts screamed at her to shift, to fight. But before she could move, Caelan was in front of her, his body a wall between her and the attackers. He shifted mid-stride, his wolf massive and black as midnight, and the sound that tore from his throat was pure dominance. But she felt it through the bond, the way his strength flickered, the way the curse dragged at him with every movement. He was going to collapse. "No," she whispered, and without thinking, without planning, she reached for the bond. It flared between them, raw and unsteady, and she poured everything she had into it. Her strength, her will, her wolf. Caelan's movements sharpened, his strikes landed harder, but Elara's knees buckled. She caught herself against the wall, gasping, her vision swimming. The bond was a live wire, searing through her veins, and she could feel every ounce of pain Caelan carried, every wound the curse had carved into him. It was too much, but she didn't let go. Around her, the pack fought with desperate fury. Guards clashed with Ronan's wolves, claws and fangs flashing in the torchlight. Blood stained the cobblestones, and in the center of it all, Caelan moved like death itself. He tore through 2 attackers, then 3, his wolf a blur of muscle and fang. But Elara could feel the tremor in his limbs, the way his breathing stuttered. He couldn't keep this up. Ronan saw it too. He shifted, his wolf gray and scarred, and lunged straight for Caelan's throat. Elara screamed a warning through the bond, and Caelan twisted just in time. Ronan's jaws snapped shut on empty air, and Caelan retaliated with a vicious strike to his flank. Ronan snarled, blood dripping from the wound, but he didn't retreat. "You're finished, Caelan," he growled, circling. "Even with your little mate propping you up." Caelan's lips pulled back, baring fangs. "Then finish it," Ronan charged. Elara felt the bond spike with desperation, and she shoved everything she had left through it. Her wolf howled in protest, the strain unbearable, but she didn't care. Caelan met Ronan head-on, and the impact shook the ground. They fought like something out of a nightmare, all teeth and claws and raw, brutal power. Elara couldn't look away, couldn't breathe. Her entire world narrowed to the bond, and the feeling of Caelan's heartbeat thundering in time with her own. And then, with a final bone-crushing strike, Caelan pinned Ronan to the ground. His jaws closed around Ronan's throat. The courtyard went silent. "Yield," Caelan snarled, his voice barely human. Ronan's wolf went still, submission flickering through his eyes. "Yield," Caelan repeated, his grip tightening. "I yield," Ronan rasped. Caelan held him there for another heartbeat. Then he released him and stepped back, his wolf's sides heaving. Ronan shifted, human again, and staggered to his feet. Blood streaked his chest, his expression twisted with fury and humiliation. "This isn't over," he spat. "Yes," Caelan said coldly. "It is, leave, and don't come back." Ronan's jaw clenched. But he turned and limped toward the gates, his remaining wolves following in a sullen, defeated line. The moment they disappeared into the trees, Caelan's wolf collapsed. "Caelan!" Elara screamed, stumbling toward him. He shifted back, human and gasping, his body trembling violently. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she reached for him. "I'm fine," he rasped. "You're not." "Elara." "Don't." Her voice broke. "Don't you dare lie to me." He met her eyes, and the exhaustion in them was staggering. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. "I wasn't going to watch you die. You almost killed yourself." "So did you." His hand found hers, his grip weak but steady. "We're both idiots." Despite everything, she laughed. It came out choked and half-broken, but it was real. "Yeah," she whispered. "We are." He pulled her down, his forehead resting against hers. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," she murmured. "You still have to survive the next 2 weeks. Then I guess you'd better keep me alive." She smiled, even though her chest ached, and her wolf felt like it had been wrung dry. "Deal?" The guards helped them back inside, and Elara didn't leave his side. Not when the healers came. Not when exhaustion finally dragged her under. And when she woke 2 days later, feverish and trembling, Caelan was there, holding her hand, refusing to let go. Elara woke slowly, her body heavy and unfamiliar. The fever had broken, she could feel that much. But her wolf felt different, quieter. Like a part of her had been hollowed out and was still learning how to breathe again. She opened her eyes. Caelan sat beside her, his chair pulled close to the bed. His hand was wrapped around hers, his thumb tracing slow circles against her palm. He looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his jaw rough with stubble, his shirt wrinkled and half unbuttoned. He looked beautiful. "Hey," she whispered. His head snapped up, relief flooding his expression so fast it stole her breath. "Elara." His voice cracked. "You're awake. How long?" 2 days." She tried to sit up, but her arms shook. He moved instantly, his hands steadying her, helping her lean back against the pillows. "Easy," he murmured. "You've been through hell. So have you." He didn't argue, just brushed her hair back from her face, his touch careful and achingly gentle. "Your wolf," she started. "Is fine," he said quietly. "Thanks to you." She shook her head. "I didn't." "You did." His hand cupped her cheek. "You nearly burned yourself out to give me enough strength to shift," the healer said. He stopped, his jaw tightening. "They said you were lucky to survive." Elara stared at him, at the guilt in his eyes. The fear. "I'd do it again," she said softly. "Don't." "Caelan, don't," he repeated, his voice raw. "Don't tell me you'd risk yourself like that again. I can't." He closed his eyes. "I can't lose you." Her chest tightened. "You won't." "You don't know that." "Neither do you." He opened his eyes, and the emotion in them was staggering. Grief and hope and something fiercer, something that made her heart ache. "I didn't want this for you," he whispered. "I never wanted you trapped, or hurt, or this." "I know, but you're here anyway." "Yeah." She turned her hand, lacing her fingers through his. "I am." His throat worked. "Why?" She held his gaze, her heart pounding. "Because I'm falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between them. Caelan went completely still. "Elara!" His voice was barely audible. "I know it's fast," she said, the words tumbling out now. "I know this isn't... We didn't choose this. Not at first. But I'm choosing it now. I'm choosing you." He stared at her like she'd just shattered something vital inside him. "You don't have to say anything," she added quickly. I needed you to know. Before we..." He kissed her. It was desperate and tender and entirely too much. His hand slid into her hair, his mouth moving against hers like he was trying to pour everything he couldn't say into this one moment. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. "I'm already in love with you," he whispered. "I have been since the moment you told me to stop being a martyr." She laughed, breathless and dizzy. "That's a terrible moment to fall in love." "It was perfect." Her heart felt too big for her chest. "Caelan, I don't deserve you," he murmured. "But I'm too selfish to let you go." "Good." She smiled, even though her eyes burned. "Because I wasn't planning on leaving." He kissed her again, softer this time. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was something precious and breakable. "The curse," she said after a long moment. "The ritual. We can still..." "No." She pulled back enough to look at him. "What?" "No," he repeated, his expression fierce. "I'm not asking you to sacrifice any more of yourself. You've already given too much." "Caelan, if it can break the curse..." "I don't care." "I do." She gripped his shirt, her voice steady. "I want to do this. Not because the council ordered it. Not because of duty. Because I love you. And I'm not going to watch you fade when there's something I can do to stop it." "Elara." "I choose this," she said firmly. "I choose you. Let me." He stared at her, conflict warring in his eyes. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." The full moon rose 3 nights later. The pack gathered in the clearing where the mating ceremony had taken place, their eyes reflecting silver in the moonlight. Elara stood at the center, her hand in Caelan's, her heart steady despite the fear coiling low in her stomach. The healer stepped forward, an ancient blade gleaming in her hands. "This ritual has not been performed in over a century," she said quietly. "It requires a mate's willing sacrifice, a piece of her wolf essence, freely given, to sever the curse and restore what was taken." Elara nodded. "I'm ready." Caelan's grip on her hand tightened. "Are you sure?" She met his eyes. "I've never been more sure of anything." He exhaled slowly. Then he raised her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "I love you," he murmured. "I love you, too." The healer placed the blade against Elara's palm. "This will hurt." "I know." The cut was swift and clean. Blood welled, dark against her skin. Caelan offered his own hand, and the healer repeated the motion. Then she pressed their palms together, their blood mingling. The bond flared. Elara gasped, her knees buckling. Caelan caught her, his arm around her waist, and she felt it. The pull, the tug deep in her chest, her wolf rising to meet his, something bright and fierce and alive flowing out of her and into him. It didn't hurt. It felt like coming home. The curse resisted. She could feel it, a dark, writhing thing wrapped around Caelan's heart. But her wolf met it head-on, tearing through it with claws made of moonlight and love and sheer, stubborn will. And then it shattered. Caelan cried out, his body arching. Light burst from their joined hands, brilliant and blinding, and the pack gasped as one. When it faded, Caelan stood tall. His eyes glowed gold, his wolf fully present for the first time in years. The scars on his chest had faded, the curse's poison finally gone. Elara sagged against him, exhausted but whole. "It's done," the healer said softly. "The curse is broken." The pack erupted into cheers. Caelan pulled Elara closer, his hand cradling her face. "Are you okay?" She smiled, her wolf humming contentedly despite the weariness. "I'm perfect." He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. And when he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For choosing me." Her chest tightened. "Always." Later, when the pack had dispersed and the moon hung low in the sky, they stood together at the edge of the clearing. Caelan's arm was around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now?" he smiled. "Now we figure out how to actually be mates, without curses or enemies or ancient blood oaths." "Sounds boring." He laughed, the sound warm and unguarded. "I doubt anything with you will ever be boring," she grinned. "Good." He turned, tilting her chin up so he could look into her eyes. "I mean it, Elara. I want a real future with you. Not something forced or desperate. Just us." Her heart swelled. "I want that too." "Then let's start now." He kissed her again, soft and lingering. And when they finally pulled apart, the moon was setting and the first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon. A new beginning, together. If this story spoke to something in you, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. There are more stories waiting.